All right, thanks for joining us for Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local and the Fox 6 YouTube channel. A very, very busy Friday.
Yeah, busy morning, right? We had here. Definitely not something we get too often in the morning hours.
True.
Thankfully, a lot of kids and people off of work, but those who had to go in the morning commute, it was a rough one.
Yeah, I think with it being Good Friday and obviously the schools, most of the schools not in today, that really helped us out quite a bit with the impact on that morning commute because you take all those buses off there. A lot of folks have probably took advantage of it and took a day off from work, and a lot of companies have, moved to offering this as a holiday as well.
Yes.
So that really saved us because the rain that we saw and the hail that we saw, all very challenging for the morning commute, and we may not be done for the day. We'll circle back to that in a bit. But let's start off with taking a look at some of the amazing pictures that we have been getting. We'll start off with some of the heavy rain out in Waukesha. This is from our Waukesha Bureau out there with Brett Lemoyne. Of course, he covered the Weather Spotters meeting earlier this week out in Economowalk, and those spotters that were newly trained were instantly pressed into duty as we had some storms throughout the Waukesha area and then on into the Milwaukee area as well. The rain came down very heavy in 2 waves this morning, Lisa.
Yeah, it did. We had the first one that moved through early on that was severe warned with hail that came through, and even the second line had some warnings on it as well that prompted some of the flooding and hail to come down with it as well. So take a look. I mean, this is just some of the small hail, Rob.
We had so many pictures of hail sent into us, some larger than others. There's some golf ball sized hail.
Getting a little bigger.
A little bit bigger than the golf ball size hail. And I think we even saw a few pictures. Yeah, there we are. Almost tennis ball sized at least. And there was reports of even larger than that, closer to baseball sized hail. So we just had so many, we couldn't possibly, go through them one at a time. So we kind of just made a scroll here. And thank you to all the viewers that sent in their pics, whether it was the piles of small hail or the giant hailstones. It was all fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And you were saying, too, that we haven't had large hail. I mean,
not like that in a
here.
very long time. I honestly can't remember the last time we saw hail the size of tennis balls or baseballs. And a lot of rain. It's been a minute since Milwaukee County has had a flash flood warning as well. That is what we did have for a period this morning. And you can see the results of that. These folks driving through pretty shallow water, so it is relatively safe. But you always have to be very careful with flood water.
You really do. One of the things we can't see with it is if any roads are washed out underneath. And again, how deep that water actually is. So we have that little jingle you've been mentioning this morning as well. Turn around, don't drown, what the National Weather Service goes by.
Right, this is
just to be on the
right
safe
there.
side.
That makes me nervous.
Yeah, I know.
That is too high to be driving through.
Yeah, I would not be.
If you can't discern where the pavement is, you
that's
really
a
shouldn't, because for all you know, that gentleman or lady or whoever is behind the wheel may have been driving into a sinkhole.
Yeah, you never know.
There's no way to know what is under there, and not only that, but it takes very little water to actually lift and create buoyancy when it comes to a vehicle. And once you're buoyant, you just go for the ride.
There's no traction anymore on the road.
You can't steer. There's nothing.
And not only do you put your life in danger, but the EMS people who have to come and help you out, their lives are in danger as well. So sometimes, yes, does it catch you off guard? Absolutely.
Sure.
Especially when we have heavy rain.
Flash flooding, by its nature, it happens very quickly. So some folks get caught in it, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think that was an unfortunately bad example. Try to not do that. Try to turn around and try to take another route and be very careful out there. If you can't see the pavement through it, you should probably just take another route and be safe. But yeah, lots of pictures there. I think we got through all that video, but we have some more international and national stuff coming up in a few minutes. But we want to get everybody ready for round 2 and beyond. So let's take a look at our big picture.
And round 2, depending on where you are, that's either going to be in terms of more rain, potential severe weather, or it could mean snow, and snow that can impact roadways. So nationally here, we're going to take a look at what's happening, because we really have these 2 conjoined low pressure systems with a front in between that's going to continue to bring impacts across areas from the Rockies heading into the Midwest, the Southern Plains, and the Ohio River Valley as we head into the next few days. Right now, that front is just south of Milwaukee, and keep that in mind if you're in Wisconsin. We're going to talk about how that'll impact us coming up. But where we have that secondary low, that's where the cold air is going to be situated behind it, bringing snow to areas of Wyoming, into the Rockies, Rockies and Colorado. And then south of that, where temperatures are a little bit warmer, we're talking about the New Mexico and Texas, western Texas area. That's where there is very strong winds with that system. Now, we are going to focus on some of the areas that are under winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings because there is going to be very impactful snow in some of those locations. Wyoming, 2 to 4 inches of snow, but when we start getting into the mountain range of Colorado, that's where we could start racking up that 6 to 10 inches. Also dealing with areas like Colorado Springs, 4 to 7 inches, which really is going to continue to cause treacherous travel, especially in the mountains and low foothills range. So keep that in mind if you know anyone or if you're traveling out there. I know some people still trying to take advantage of the skiing time of year before we get a lot warmer. There are going to be some hazards in the snow department near the Rockies. Closer to home though, especially heading from Texas, notice we're already seeing precipitation flaring up ahead of this cold front, and this really is going to be the main zone where the warmth, the moisture, and the proper ingredients are going to combine together to give us the threat for some strong to severe storms. Now we're going to get into that forecast, but notice the drastic difference across the country behind that front, where temperatures are in the 20s and 30s, also where that snow is falling, compared to ahead of that front where we have the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where that severe weather is likely going to flare up. So we're going to be stretching from the southern plains in Texas through the Mississippi and Ohio River Valley and heading towards the Great Lakes, which will include us today, for the chance of some stronger storms. Tomorrow, that threat doesn't move too much. Now, it does, again, not include portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes, but it is still going to be centralized around portions of Texas and the same areas that have already seen an extensive amount of severe weather this year in the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. Back here locally, though, this is what we're watching. Across the state, we have had, again, some rounds of strong to severe storms this morning, mainly impacting southern portions of Wisconsin. We have had at least a break, though, a lull in the activity with some sunshine early on now after those storms, but clouds are beginning to filter back in, and we are tracking the location of this warm front. That warm front is pushing areas just south of the Wisconsin border in the 70s, while we're hanging on to the 60s and then cooler near Duluth in the 40s. What we're going to notice, though, is that warm front is going to be lifting further north, and that's going to keep temperatures mild. So even here in southern Wisconsin, temperatures are in the 5 to almost 15 degree above average range for today compared to where we were yesterday. We, of course, continue that warming further south in Illinois, the cooler temperatures farther away from that low, but it is going to be on the warmer side of things, especially for southern and eastern portions of Wisconsin today. That forecast, take a look at the spread of the temperatures across the state. Well, we're looking to see some of the low 50s and 40s in the north and northwestern portions of Wisconsin. We could be talking about the mid 70s in southeastern portions of the state. And again, it all has to do with the placement of the low pressure system and where that front is going to sit across. That's going to help some of southern portions of Wisconsin bring in the heat, bring in the moisture, and set those areas up for maybe some stronger storms. So for today, that bigger threat's off to our south. We're still going to have to watch a decent portion of southern Wisconsin for the potential of maybe a few strong to severe storms today. That looks to maybe pick up around the 2 to 3 o'clock time frame in the afternoon. That is if the storms can develop in the current atmosphere. That's the big question, is there the potential for all these ingredients to line up to give us some stronger storms? They're not looking to be widespread in nature, but rather isolated. But as we head through the afternoon into the dinner hours, that's going to be the best time frame we'll be watching here in southern Wisconsin for the chance of some of those stronger storms, which looking right now to give us the bigger threat for damaging winds and large hail like we had this morning. Could see some showers again in central and northern portions of the state, but the further north you are, the less chance you're going to have of dealing with active weather today. It really is going to be focused again along the southeastern portions of Wisconsin and even along the border, because that's where we can have a few more of the stronger storms flare up where the current slight risk is at. What we're tracking though through the day is a cold front that's going to sweep through. So that is going to bring cooler air across the entire state of Wisconsin and also then push the severe weather east and southeast of us as we head from Friday night into Saturday. Sunday. So what we're tracking then heading into the holiday weekend, well, there's a lot to unravel, especially for those traveling for Easter. We should start off with a lot more cloud cover in the beginning of Saturday morning. Now we should progress to get those clouds a little thinner and maybe bring back some sunshine by the time we head into Saturday afternoon, just depending again on how far north you are. The further south you are towards the Wisconsin-Illinois border, we still could be hanging on to some thicker clouds through your day on Saturday, but the main key note here is Saturday looks dry, especially if you're traveling again anywhere within the state. What we're tracking on Sunday, Easter Sunday, is going to be another system moving in. So the early morning Easter egg hunts, I think statewide should be fine. It is going to be cooler on Sunday. We could be tracking some 40s north and 50s further south, but where we're tracking another low moving in from the southwest, that's going to bring in some showers come Sunday afternoon and continue to bring in some more showers and even possibly some rumbles of thunder by Sunday night into early Monday. So again, we are going to still have a very active afternoon for southern portions of the state here, potentially as we head into Friday afternoon and evening. Saturday looks dry, and for Sunday, get out early for those Easter egg hunts because the rain will be moving in by the afternoon and stretching again from southern portions of the state further north by Sunday night.
All right, we have a very busy time ahead here, Lisa. We're going to talk about, our storms obviously will be all over that. We also have some international weather to get to. I want to take you to Italy. This is the only trip to Italy I can afford, and it's not maybe the best weather. And in all seriousness, some very significant weather with some heavy flooding over into northern Italy and throughout many other parts of Europe as well. In Italy alone, they were hit by flash floods. A huge snow dump in the mountains led to an avalanche as well. Since midnight on Wednesday, more than 400 rescues and interventions had to be reported. The most critical situation is reportedly in the province of Turin, particularly in areas near the Po River. The extreme weather is also expected to sweep over parts of Spain, Switzerland, and other parts of Italy as well. Some dramatic pictures there. Wow. Incredible flooding. All right, let's take you to a caught on tape moment here weather-wise. We go from Italy to Nebraska, a possible tornado because we haven't had it confirmed by the National Weather Service, but it was caught on video along with some other severe storms moving through Nebraska on Thursday. So this was last evening, triggered multiple reports there, large hail and damage similar to what we saw this morning here all across Nebraska, as well as Ohio. National Weather Service expected to assess the damage to determine if there were any caused by tornadoes or rather by straight line winds. That does look rather convincing, but and need to get to some ground reports to verify, but still very cool video to share out of Nebraska.
Don't actually get to see some of that video too often because most people are taking shelter.
Which is good.
We have definitely our storm spotters and other chasers out there at least getting that footage for us, which is so important because we do talk about when we're analyzing radar, we really don't know what's hitting the ground. So that footage helps, and it can actually help in the confirmation process for the National Weather Service.
And it has a psychological boost of people taking it just a little bit more seriously because, we want people to, they know someone saw it and they'll take that. Even though Doppler is an amazing tool, it will never replace human eyes on the subject itself, or at least certainly not in our lifetime. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about more wildfires, and we'll talk a bit about how that big old hail that we had today formed in the first place. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Expert. So we were just talking between the break there about how busy we've been, and we're talking about the large hail and some of the videos we've seen in the past when it's come splashing down in the pools. And you were saying you're starting to see some damage reports too?
Yeah, some damage reports, especially near the Evansville area where we've had some of our largest hail reports, tennis ball size. That definitely has had some damage I've seen on some trailers with massive dents. So as cool as we think hail is, and it can be cool, we're talking about things like metal objects damage, such as your car.
Oh, sure. Cars and trailers, and it does a lot of roof damage. It's one of the biggest weather-related insurance claims on the books. So hopefully you and your property are in good shape today.
Yeah.
We're going to turn to another big insurance claim of late, which is the wildfires. Millions of folks across the South, of course, bracing for potential wildfires this week. Officials say the damage from hurricanes, which swept across the region last year, of course, could further fuel those flames. And we've got an update now from Jonathan Sari.
Dry air and gusty winds creating the perfect storm of fire conditions across the South this week. More than 4 million people are under red flag warnings.
Please let it rain. Let it rain here.
In Florida, the conditions have sparked dozens of wildfires, though officials say most are contained.
If you decide to have a fire, it gets out of control, you call 911 and we issue our response to get out there. As dry as conditions are, the fire increases and escalates very rapidly.
And the threat is expected to continue through at least June. The National Interagency Fire Center says debris left over from major hurricanes, including Helene and Debbie, could fuel flames in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas in the coming months. Officials across the Southeast are urging people to take steps to prepare their homes.
The roof is cleaned off, and then you've got the branches trimmed around the roof area. And you want to keep the 0 to 5 foot range around the home vegetative free if possible.
Meanwhile, on the West Coast, forecasters say the rainy season is winding down and dry weather is on the way. Multiple states are bringing in additional fire crews and going door to door to get folks ready.
We will point out things where there is something combustible that could be ignited by an airborne ember, or ways that they can reduce the risk of a fire running along the ground.
Fire officials say people under a red flag warning should avoid outdoor burning, which could spark a flame. In Atlanta, Jonathan Sari, Fox News.
It's a really good point. Even with as wet as we have been at times so far this spring, the vegetation is still fairly dry. The soil is starting to moisten up, now that we're finally coming out of the drought. But that doesn't mean we can be, throw caution to the wind.
Exactly. And we've had a very windy month here in Wisconsin, locally. So because of that, that's always a concern. Even if we've had rain, we've had some events where people are questioning, well, we've seen a couple inches of rain. Why are we still in a drought? Well, it's not just one event. It's going to take time to dwindle that drought down. And still, we need more rain because with the upcoming months, you never know. Wildfires can spread.
And the air is still pretty dry. It is finally moistened up today. But when we started, the last couple of days, those dew points were very, very low.
Very
low.
It
took a lot to kind of pump that up. So again, with the dry air and the dry conditions and the wind, it's perfect scenario to get those wildfires going. All right, another quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Holly explain how hail is formed, and we might even be talking aliens. Stick around for that.
Well, welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We've been talking about a slew of things, from flooding to wildfires to more severe weather, and now hail, because we've had some large hailstones this morning.
Right.
Don't usually see them too often here in southeastern Wisconsin, but that may pose the thought of, how does hail form? Well, meteorologist Holly Baker is going to break down the process of that and give us some more information.
As we continue to ease into our severe weather season, we're going to start to see more cases of severe thunderstorms and just regular thunderstorms passing through the area, in which some cases, some of these thunderstorms could carry a little bit of hail. But how does the hail actually form? Well, it all starts inside of the cloud. You have to have an updraft that is present. And with that updraft, you'll have the updrafts pretty much taking those frozen water droplets to be swept in within this updraft, and it has to be above that freezing level. So once those water droplets make it above that freezing level, additional layers of ice will begin to form over the already frozen water droplet, to the point where the size just grows bigger and bigger and bigger. But in that case, the bigger it gets, the heavier it gets. So eventually the weight will exceed the force of the updraft. And so what that means is the weight of the actual hailstone will begin to get way too heavy for it to even stay in the cloud. And eventually that hail weight grows and it outgrows the force of the updraft, and then it eventually falls to the ground. And in our case, we definitely saw a little bit of hail last week. We saw pea-sized hail last week. And so we saw a lot of it. In fact, hail can come in more than just one size. Here is a look at those hail sizes right here. You got pea-sized hail, penny-sized hail, quarter-sized hail, golf ball-sized hail, tennis ball size hail. And if you make your way all the way to the end, you even start to see that there are some hail sizes could be as big as a grapefruit. That's about 4.5 inches. So that is pretty huge. But here is just a look at how common some of those are. Most of the time, those grapefruit size hails are exceptionally rare. And then a lot of cases where it's very common, like pea-sized hail, what we saw this past week, that's pretty common. So from a scale from common to exceptionally rare, we have seen already the common size. Tennis ball hail is where you have those severe levels of hail, but that's going to still be very rare. So again, these are just the different sizes of what hail could possibly be.
Well, we were just looking and kind of giggling a little bit about the size reference, because the egg has never made any sense to me. It's been the case for years, though.
Yeah.
And they specifically say hen's egg, which is kind of silly because roosters don't lay eggs.
Yeah.
But it's funny that it's the only non-spherical one in the bunch. But the seriousness of this is that, we did have the top end of that today. I mean, not the very top, but we had baseball-sized hail.
And that's not something you get very often, especially in this area. So to be able to get reports of tennis ball to baseball size hail is massive. And as much, again, as people love to go outside and pick it up, take pictures with it, it really can damage your own body.
Well, and it can be deadly, too. There have been reports of people trapped outside and even just golf ball sized hail with its blunt force impact, right? And
this is not, not golf ball, but still.
But I mean, we did see some. If we keep this rolling, we'll see some of the more golf ball sized and tennis ball sized hail that we did get reported from viewers. And we have had some official storm reports of even baseball sized hail, 2.75 inch hail earlier. I mean, look at that. That's
huge.
Easily not quite tennis ball, but pretty darn close.
If you think a paintball hurts,
yeah, I can't even imagine. There's definitely some broken windows and cars out there. Feel free to send us your damage reports and send us your questions, too. I'm sure after a day like today, you probably have many questions like, how does hail form? You can do that easily. Just point your phone at the QR code on the TV, and we will be able to get your question. It just takes you to a website. You submit your question, and we'll do our best to answer them, weather-related, earth science-related, maybe outer space, like, are there aliens? Well, we may be closer to that answer than you think. Astronomers actually believe they have found possible signs of life on a planet that is outside of our solar system. Research led by scientists at the University of Cambridge detected evidence of compounds in an exoplanet's atmosphere that are on Earth, and they're only produced by living organisms here on Earth. So they contend this is actually the strongest potential signal of life on another planet. But here's the big but here. The word of caution is that more work is needed to confirm what they have found.
the confidence we have is at a 99.7%, which means there is still a 0.3% chance that this could be a statistical fluke. But in scientific discoveries, especially like a discovery like this, which is completely game-changing for science and transforming our understanding of the universe, we want to be absolutely sure because it affects science and society in so many ways. So we want to go to a 5 sigma level where we want to make sure that there is less than 1 in a million chance of it being a statistical fluke.
Pretty impressive stuff. So that planet that they have discovered this on is more than double the Earth's size and more than 8 times as massive as Earth. So their work, if you want to read up on it and get deep in the weeds about it, appears in the journal Astrophysics Journal Letters. If you want to check it out. So who knows?
Hopefully they're small aliens.
That's right.
Not big.
Bacteria, who knows? Well, small things can be problematic too.
True.
We'll be back, of course.